Anselmo, thank you so much for being on board the Transatlantic. This is a very special episode for me because I've admired your work for a long time and I'm very excited to have you here. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, man. After, Jeff Goodby and John Hegarty, I don't know what I'm doing here. You're probably running out of names.
No, that is the reason why you are here, because all these great legends were here. You are one
Yeah,
of
right.
them. Anyway, look, we believe that everyone is an ocean of erratic thoughts and wide feelings. There's going to be a lot of your journey that we want to know. So I would say let's go to the first question of the seven seas. Let's go from there. First, Positano, a cliffside village off the Amalfi Coast, and various villages of Ischia and Procida near Naples were used to represent the fictional town of Mongibello, a 1999 movie of the talent of Mr. Ripley. However, the production tortured the village, and it rained so much that it was as if Italy became this beautiful lady who didn't want to get photographed by anybody. Do you remember an instance where you were on sets shooting a commercial or a photo shoot where you were trying desperately to capture the beauty of something, but you couldn't? It was almost impossible to do it.
Yes and no. I mean, not exactly like that, right? But we've been to many shoots where you just don't know what's going on, right? And we love doing that. It's usually a great sign, right? And so if we go to a shoot with that kind of fear of, oh my God, what's going to happen? Is this going to work or not? We don't know. That's a great feeling, right? And the first case that we felt that was with Real Beauty Sketches, right? So we had no idea if that would work or not. So when we presented the idea, the client on the call would ask us, hey, do you think this is going to work? And we said, we have no idea. We don't know. The only way to find out is actually doing it, and by the way, it might not work. And if it doesn't work, just don't use it. Trash the whole thing. So, because it was impossible to predict if the women would react the way we thought they would, because it was a social experiment.
Right.
And we love that. And that's when we learn about the power of embracing uncertainty, right? Which is related to your question. Like if we're going to a shoot and, things are not ideal or the weather changed or the actor is not performing, you need to embrace it and try to adapt. So ever since Real Beauty Sketches, we love to find ideas where we go, oh my God, I don't even know if this works, right? Like another example was Proud Whopper. Proud Whopper, when we did Proud Whopper for Burger King, was the same, right? It was like, some people were, pro LGBT rights, some people were against, and we were just shooting. Like, it's like a documentary approach. We were just shooting everything. And then in the final edit, we included both views. But, we had no idea what people would say. And we love that feeling. It's actually a great feeling to choose the best ideas. Because if you know exactly what's going to happen, then maybe it has been done before, right? And maybe you are too comfortable. So we love that feeling of we have no idea if this is gonna work or not.
I love that because like every time I go on a set, for me, like to be on the set is the most creative moment I have. It's not before, it's actually on the set, because that's where like all the greatest idea comes, right? And so you to be ready to kind of like welcome the unexpected and play with the unexpected. And it seems like, sometimes our industry is calling this like struggle between like planning every single details and then get to the sets and you just like everything is thrown off the window because maybe the weather, maybe the actors is not reacting the way you want, the director is not like framing the scene the way you want. So I admire like your mindset, because it's a great mindset, because it's literally like prepare for change at any moment. And that's
and Simone, that's crazy, right? Because you say, in one hand, you say, I want to do something fresh, something that hasn't been done before. On the other hand, you say, well, let's make sure everything works and, show me an example of something like that already worked. It's impossible. You cannot have both.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree, man. Good. Second question. So this is a story of water flushing down the toilets and lots of silence. It begins with these words. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I come to talk with you again because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. Now, Paul Simon wrote Sound of Silence when he was 21 years old. The song was written in his bathroom. Simon would often sit in the bathroom and turn the light off to concentrate. He said, I used to go off in the bathroom because the bathroom has tiles. So it was like a slight echo chamber. And I would turn off the faucet so that the water would run and I would play in the dark. Now you are universally recognized as one of the best like creative mind out there. So my question for you is like, when you brainstorm with yourself, when you're trying to get the spark, is there a place that you go to? And if there is, what kind of meaning that place hold for you?
So before I answer the question, this question is so weird, Simone, because it's a coincidence. Like last year, we worked with WhatsApp, right?
Okay.
One of our clients, and last year we helped them to launch dark mode. Okay.
Wow.
And the song that we used was Sound of Silence. We used that song. And here's the thing, when we were talking with Paul Simon, he said, wait a minute, I have, Paul, right? He said, I have a never released version of the song, okay, that I kept in the dark for 50 years. And it's even darker. So that's the version that we used for the WhatsApp campaign that we did, man. So it was a never released song, Sound of Silence, like another version, even darker, which was perfect for the idea of the WhatsApp dark mode. So I just want to say, very weird that you're asking me that, right? But answering your question, I don't have a specific place, okay, like one place that I go. My place is everywhere.
Okay.
It's anywhere. Why? Because we are a bunch of ad nerds, okay, and we are proud. We are proud of it. We're not ashamed about that. We're not cynical about advertising. We love this business, okay? And because we are ad nerds, what we do is every film that we watch, every book that we read, every trip that we take, we are thinking, how can I use this new reference or this new experience for one of our clients all the time, okay? So it's a very sad life. but we don't care because we love this life and we love this business. So that's why I don't have a place. I'm not a writer that needs to go to a table and a typewriter, and no, it's anywhere, anytime. As long as I'm learning something new,
right,
I'm already thinking, hey, can I use this for one of our clients? It's pathetic, okay? But that's exactly what we do.
You're right, man. It's like, it's like my place, my conceptual place is my childhood. I go often back to my childhood, like to see things I used to do, and then I steal from that. In fact, like my childhood is this like construction site where everything is like completely scattered, because I've made a mess. Sometimes more than often, because I ride motorcycles, so it happens to me that when I ride on the freeway, at least in America, because the freeway is just a straight shot, and you sit there for like an hour, 2 hours, and I just start thinking. So it happens to me.
The mind state, right, Simone? Yeah. It's a mind state. It's not a physical place. It's like a emotional place.
Right. Anyway, man, that was a good story. I didn't know about Paul Simon. That's incredible. Yeah. That's incredible. Okay, man. Third question. So I have a question that I like to call like an ocean divider question. And the answer I usually get sits at the opposite side. It's either black or white, this question. But I want to tell you a story before leading into the question. Now, there is an actor that managed to disappear into his roles. And he's called Gary Oldman. He's a freaking good actor. He's one of the best, right? But Jennifer Lawrence once said, Gary Oldman can't get famous because nobody recognizes him. It's like, so he has mastered the art of disappearing into the character, right? Now, bridging this into advertising, I want to ask you a question that I've been asking so many, like, creative directors. Do you think that creatives should be invisible when working for a brand and completely disappear behind the brand voice? Or should they bring their own style, their own signature onto the work?
It's a very good question. And for me, the answer is both. Okay. Because it depends on the creative.
Okay.
Like some creatives have the ability to adapt to different brands and different emotions.
Right.
So fine, do that. Like, you work on a funny brand, you do something funny. You work on an emotional brand, you do something emotional. But it's not for everyone. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's not easy. A lot of creatives, they have a style, and that's nothing wrong with that. I'll give you one example. Jerry Graff is really funny. Yeah. Okay, and we all want him to make us laugh all the time, and he's amazing, and that's nothing wrong with that, right? And other creatives are more emotional, and they have powerful films with a lot of emotion, and it's fine. So I think we need to separate what's the brand persona, and then what's the style of the creative, right? Like some brands are funny, right? So for those brands, in theory, you should have funny creatives working on those brands. But at the same time, you could bring an emotional creative to see what the person would do, right? To keep it like weird. But if you have an emotional brand, you can have emotional creatives. So the brand's the boss, right? The brand is above any CMO, any agency. So the brand has brand positioning and brand values and brand personality. So we need to put the right creatives to create content for that brand. So I think if you look at creative department, it's okay to have funny creatives and emotional creatives and weird creatives, and it's like all sorts of creatives. But we love when a creative comes and brings his or her full personality, right, to the work, because that's very powerful. Right. Because if we say we are like this and we expect everyone to create like this, it's not going to be fresh enough, right? So the more the creatives can bring their full selves to work, the better, because they're going to create a more interesting creative department, right? So that's why it's a very complicated answer, because it's actually both, depending on the talents, right?
It's very complicated. You're right. It's like, every time I think about it, because even when you think about funny, right? You have a funny brain, you need a funny tone of voice. But then, like, when it comes to Jerry Graff, you mentioned, like, there is a funny Jerry Graff. He has his own signature of funny. So when he does those quirk, like, comedy sketches, it is a Jerry Graff comedy sketches. So by the same token, like, when you think about the history of movie, right? Like, when you see Terry Malick, he does certain kind of emotional in a Terry Malick way, know. But when you look at, like, Francis Ford Coppola, he does emotion in a different way. They all have a signature. But then it comes the fact that we are actually not just like a free arts. We are commissioned by a brand. So there is that kind of like, we're solving a business problem. So there is also like a different voice coming in, which is the voice of the brand that we need to like react to. So it's very complicated. Yeah.
It's very complicated. There's one person, one director that managed to shoot one amazing film per genre, and that was Stanley Kubrick. Okay.
Yeah.
He did like everything, like from comedy to war to drama to thriller. He was amazing. So if you have an agency and you are able to do a funny brand and an emotional brand, and a serious brand, that's amazing. But that's not for everyone.
Absolutely, man. Good. Fourth question. prophecies are very common among sailors. Now, it must be that the ocean brings like the sixth sense. Now, talking about Jim Morrison, the frontman of The Doors and son of a commander of the US Naval Forces, he had the power of prophecy. Here's what said during a radio interview in 1970. He said this: a lot of people like Mozart were prodigies. They were writing brilliant works at very young ages. That's probably what's going to happen. Some brilliant kids will come along and be popular. I can see a lot of artists with a lot of tapes and electrical, like an extension of the Moog synthesizer, a keyboard with the complexity and the richness of a whole orchestra, you know? There's somebody out there working in a basement just inventing a whole new musical form. This was 1970. I mean, come on, like the guy was like freaking awesome, right? So let me bridge this into advertising. Even though you're not a seller, probably you're like, you know, to make prophecies, not like your specialty, but I want to ask you, what does like the advertising industry look like in 50 years from now?
Yes, I'm not a sailor, and yes, I don't have a boat. Okay, but here's the thing: whoever told you that know exactly what's gonna happen in 50 years is totally bullshit. Okay, nobody knows anything. You know, and we always say that. You know, William Goldman, he was a screenwriter and a producer in Hollywood, and he said that. He said nobody knows anything, and he was talking about Hollywood. You know, because you really never know if a film is going to work or not. That's why I have so many sequels in Hollywood. But I think the same applies to advertising. We really don't know. We don't. And we tell that to our clients all the time. We have no idea if this idea is going to work or not. Just go for it. If it feels right, if it's on brand, if you have the money, you know, let's do it, right? But you know, I feel that nowadays advertising has like lots of gurus everywhere trying to predict like the future and what's going to happen. And some, you know, saying, wow, this is over. We should just change professions. You know, we don't think it is. We think it's amazing. But, you know, but I feel that there are more people trying to predict what's going to happen with advertising than actually doing good ads. Okay.
Oh my God, yeah, it's totally right.
You know, so we, you know, we try not to predict. What we try to do is to learn as fast as we can any new tool, right? Because what happens with technology is you just have more tools to play with all the time, you know, and fine, you just need to learn, you know, but here's what I think will never change, okay? Some things are forever and they are timeless. The power of a great idea, that will never change. So whatever happens in 50 years, whatever the new social media is, whatever the new tool is, the power of a great idea will always be crucial, you know? And also another thing that will never change is, you know, human emotions. Absolutely. The fact that humans want to laugh and want to cry and want to feel scared and want to feel adrenaline, that will never change. So those two things are timeless. Right. So as long as you keep up with the latest tools, you're going to be fine. But you need to get good at coming up with great ideas and tap into emotions. That's the hardest part ever. That's hard now, not in 50 years, right? That's hard now.
Right. You know what I like most is like the part when you say, when we go to clients, like we don't know if it's going to work or not. If it fits right for you, just go for it. And the beauty is like, this just play into like the old position of your agency, right? Called guts. You go with the guts. Like, you know, it's beautiful because it all makes sense. Almost like, you know, it adds credibility. Like your behavior is like engraved in the positioning of the agency, which I found like very smart. So
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Good, man. Okay, fifth question. In a standard atmospheric conditions, for an observer with eye level above sea level, the horizon is at the distance of about 3 miles, actually 3.1 miles. But when observed from a very high standpoint, such as space station, the horizon is much farther away and encompasses a much larger area of the Earth's surface. Now, this fact is the proof that in life, everything changes according to where you stand. Our perception is deeply affected by our position in space and time. We are walking coordinates. So how did your point of view on advertising have changed from being a young creative that worked for like a holding company to be an owner of his own agency?
Yeah, it changed completely, right? Like at the beginning of my career, when I was a writer, like a junior writer, I was just worried about basically coming up with great ideas, with fresh and original ideas. And I was worried about my portfolio, right? My book. That was my world, right? Um, so now so basically I was just worried about the creative,
Right.
right? The creative.
Right.
Now that we have an indie shop in 5 countries, we are worried about the creative business,
Right.
the business side of it, right? So we are equally passionate about like generating powerful and fresh and original ideas, but we understand that this is a business. We sell creativity to our clients. So now my perspective completely changed because we're running a business, and then it goes back to what kind of business you want to run, what kind of clients you want to have, and what kind of ideas you want to produce, right? And we are a creative driven business. So that's why we need to take care of the creative output, because that's who we are. That's how we're going to attract, clients. But now, because it's a business like any other business, the only difference is that we sell creativity. We're really interested in learning, a lot of business aspects of running an agency. And before, when we were part of WPP, we didn't have to worry about the back office or the bank or the lawyers or benefits, HR benefits. Now we need to take care of everything, right? That's why I decided to take a course in Harvard. It's called OPM, Owner, President, and Manager, and it's very uncomfortable. I was taking classes of leadership and sales and marketing, negotiation, finance. Okay, super uncomfortable. I had to call my CFO, to cheat on some tests, but we just want to learn the other side of it, the business side of the creative business, because the creative, we had it, that has been our career, but now it's about a business. How can we scale? How can we sell creativity to our clients? And also the shift is now it's all about our people, right? So we say we are a people first, client second, people first, work second, client last. Okay, and we tell that to our clients. We're a client last agency, and most of them understand, because if our people are happy, the work's going to be great. If the work is great, the clients will be happy, right? But now that's the change from creative to creative business, right? It's a business, so we need to learn as much as we can about operating a business.
I love your answer, man. And what I love the most is the fact that, when I wrote this question, I knew for certainty that the point of view on the creative business changed, like going from a young copywriter to like the business owner. But what I was hoping and what I got is like to give a lesson to every creative out there that like there is never a time where we stop learning or we stop improving and feeling uncomfortable. And you say that taking that course at Harvard, it made you so uncomfortable because it was not really something that you were prepared for, but you had to do it if you want to like almost like expand yourself and get like an overview of like the old business. It's so admirable because not many people do that. Like not many people are ready to do that, and they rather say that's not my field. I don't want to go there. I'm not interested in there. I want to keep doing what I'm doing. But and everybody's free to do whatever they want, but it's like it's literally like you could like spend your entire life having like a 180 view, or you could have the chance at one point to have a 360 view. You can say no to it, or you can go for it.
The other tip I have is like when I was a junior writer in Brazil,
right?
A friend of mine, Miguel Benfica, he would call me Anselmo Propaganda, okay, which is basically Anselmo advertising.
Right.
Because even though I was a junior writer, I was no one. I was already acting like, this is my shop. Okay. Like this is my agency. So I always, like, in a weird way, I always act like an owner.
Right. Okay.
Even though I was just a junior writer, because I deeply care about everything, But yeah, I mean, it's like the more you understand, the idea in the context of the client and the business of an agency, the better.
Right. Anselmo Propaganda is pretty fucking cool, though.
Propaganda, yeah, that was my first agency.
Tell me,
it was fictional. It was a fictional agency. Never happened, but
Okay, man, I will see the show. Look, this question. Fish don't know they are in water. If you try to explain it, they would say, water, what the heck is water? They are so surrounded by it that it's impossible to see it. They can't see it until they jump outside of the water. Now, this excerpt comes from a book titled Hell Yeah or No. And when I first read it, it reminded me of how I feel about this industry. We don't know we are truly in it until we jump out of it and look at it from a different perspective. The bubble. We live in a bubble. We need to like burst the bubble and look at the things like from a different angle. And so then we realize that we are in it. Yes, we work in advertising. Does it happen to you? Or have you always been aware of where you were at every step of your career?
Before I answer, can you hear a vacuum cleaner, or that's fine because I can tell them to stop?
No, I can't. No.
Okay, no. Perfect. So listen, yeah, it depends on the context, right? Like, for instance, I think that we as ad people, sometimes we look at advertising.
Right.
I mean, not sometimes, all the time. We look with a very technical eye, right? We go like, well, not sure about the dialogue, or, let's talk about the editing. Well, I'm not sure about the music. It's very technical, but real people or normal people, right, they don't think like that. They are gonna either like it or not.
Right.
And they'll not even be able to say why. Right. It's like a gut reaction. It's very emotional. It's like, I see a content, I like it or don't. Yeah. I forward to a friend or I don't. It's that simple. Yeah. And sometimes I think we overthink and we overanalyze stuff. But like people, like, if you really think about the internet, right, it's really stupid, right? The humor is very stupid.
Very basic,
and the memes are funny and creative and whatever. And the brands, they think to overthink, right? But I feel that the brands need to embrace more that, right? That, that stupidity, that is just dumb. It's just stupid, who cares? And so I think sometimes we're too close to it and we tend to overthink, and we tend to forget how a normal human being will look at this. That's why, we need to be careful not to forget to interact with normal people, right? People that are different, from you. Yeah.
I totally it's like,
so that's why, I love to take, I love to go to the beach, right? But not a private hotel, like to actually the public beach in Miami, to watch people.
Absolutely.
To see what they're doing and just to have references, and like, so the more you can understand that, what's the consumers doing, what people are doing, what they're interested, the better, because otherwise you're going to live just in an advertising bubble, and that's not really healthy, right?
To watch people, to me, is like to watch human behavior. Is like, I always compare it to like, it's our, like, Trainspotting. The movie Trainspotting,
Yeah.
Danny Boyle, like, it stemmed from this behavior that a teenager had in the 90s, where like they will go to the train station and look at a train passing by, right? Trainspotting. It was like a total behavior, total, like, things that you will do. And like, you going to the beach and looking at like people, like, at the beach, or like, at the same time, me sometimes like stand at a corner, like, very creepy, just like looking at people passing by. It's like, it's our Trainspotting. That's like what we bring into, like, it's our way of bursting through the bubble of advertising, coming out, looking at the real world, and then coming in again and bringing like
totally. And Simone, I think it's also about just being curious about life,
Right.
you know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
just be curious about everything,
Yeah.
you know, people watching is an amazing sport, right? Just
Yeah.
people watch all the time, but try to read weird books and try to see like foreign movies
Yeah.
and try to just like, you know, because we're all reading the same things, we're all clicking on the same links, and that's like, you know,
Yeah.
you're not gonna come up with anything fresh like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, this is the last question. And for all our guests, there's a question that we love to ask. If there was a wind that blew your sail, and you had to name the wind, what would the name be?
It would be the uncomfortable wind. Okay. It's a very strong wind. Maybe it's warm.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like messes your hair. It's very uncomfortable. But, every time I'm comfortable, I feel this wind coming, sending me somewhere else.
Right.
Right. So when I was a junior writer in Brazil, a very strong, uncomfortable wind came and sent me to Lisbon, right?
Okay.
And I literally crossed the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
and I was living in Lisbon. I was 24, my first time living abroad, writing trying to write in Portuguese from Portugal, which is different than, Portuguese from Brazil.
Absolutely.
Almost like a foreign language. And, and then after a year, like another uncomfortable wind came and sent me to Madrid. And then I was for 3 years trying to write in Spanish. I couldn't say anything in Spanish. The only thing I knew was like una cerveza, por favor, and I had to write in Spanish, very uncomfortable. By the way, I recommend for any writer to try to write in a foreign language because it makes you better and sharper. Yeah, because it makes you better. Because since you don't know all the puns and you don't know all the possible play of words, you focus on the concept, you focus on the idea, an idea that can travel, makes you a more conceptual thinker. Absolutely. So I strongly recommend. So and after that, I crossed back the ocean to the US, and I was 28, I couldn't speak English. I'll take like one show and D&D books to my English teacher every day at lunchtime for a year. And I'll tell my teacher, please tell me every word, every headline, long copy ads, okay? And that's how I learned English, really, by just like one show annuals and D&D annuals, super ad nerdy. But that was super uncomfortable, and then work in New York, in English. That's not my first language as a writer. So every time, even like gut is super uncomfortable, because when we decided to leave WPP, we started David, and David was amazing. It was part of WPP. But when we decided to leave to start our own agency, 100% independent, was extremely uncomfortable. We had a non-compete. We couldn't call anyone. We couldn't call talent. We couldn't call clients. We literally started from scratch. That was extremely uncomfortable. So, but that was the best decision ever. So in a weird way, the more uncomfortable I am, the happier I am. Okay. If I'm too comfortable, I'm not happy, because I know what's going on. I'm comfortable. I know exactly what's going to happen. It's not challenging. So every time I get comfortable, I hope this uncomfortable wind comes and, takes me somewhere extremely uncomfortable. It's almost like landing on a new land. Right. Okay. When a wind takes you to a new island or a new land, you have no idea what you're going to find there. Like animals, like, natives, you have no idea, right? It's very dangerous. So I love that feeling, man. The uncomfortable wind is amazing.
I can relate to this so much. It's funny because like you mentioned, like having this like uncomfortable wind and like take you like in every places. And for me, it's the same. Like, I'm a writer, like born and bred, like in Italy. And like I work and lived in like in 8 cities, like, London, New York, like, and it was very difficult for me when I transitioned like onto the United States. The only thing I had back in Italy was like I knew how to write, right? So then when I started my international career, I was so uncomfortable and I lost everything to the point, and this is something I always say to people, the first years, people thought I was very shallow as a person because my communication was very basic. So even when I would go out with friends, my language was like so like broken, and like I couldn't really communicate. So it was very elementary communication, to the point that I remember a friend of mine many years after, he told me like, you know what, I thought that you weren't very smart, but you actually are a little bit smart. I was like, that's what happened, like, you know. So it's funny, and the way I look at this is this, man, like, you know, you start your career, I really see myself a lot. I mean, I have not even like closely achieved what you achieved, but like, you know, there is a scene in like No Country for Old Men where there is like the coin scene, the coin scene.
Yeah, the coin scene, amazing.
At one point they say, this coin that is in front of you has traveled like, you know, many, many years to get in front of you. And I do believe that people that work in advertising, in any kind of field, at one point they're destined like to talk to each other. And I do think that I'm the coin that end up in your pockets.
Wait a minute, who is Javier Bardem here? That was really weird.
That was weird. I'm not gonna kill you, but like that is like, anyway, man, look, this was awesome. I love it. And thank you so much for the time that you took to talk to me and to my audience at Transatlantic. Thank you, man.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.